Hello everyone, please press subscribe, press follow, press the bell so you don't miss any new clips. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Author by Flying Alone. Audio novels by Novelist. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 66. Tournament begins. I'm done for this time. I drew the 7th group, and I heard that the seeded elite in that group is Sima Wendong. He's the strongest member in his generation of the Sima clan of Da Yuan City, and he's already reached the 7th layer of element gathering tier. Lu Dong sighed, shaking his head. I'm worse off. I'm in the 1st group, and the seeded elite of my group is the 4th prince. I really don't have a sliver of hope left now. Zhu Zuyi sighed similarly, but she quickly became excited, and said, but it's possible that Li Hao may advance and obtain a spot to enroll in the academy. Ling Han glanced over at Li Hao. Within this time of over a month, he had managed to reach the late period of the 3rd layer of element gathering tier. This, of course, was due to the effects of the 3 transcending origin pills he had taken. With this kind of cultivation level, along with his saber chi, the possibility of Li Hao managing to advance was very high. After all, he had drawn the 40th-something group, where the seeded elite was only in the 4th layer of element gathering tier, although a person in the 4th layer still possessed a great advantage against someone in the 3rd layer. Li Hao had saber chi, which would be more than sufficient to compensate for the gap between himself and his opponent. Additionally, the seeded elite had to face the imminent danger of being ganged up on by everyone else. As long as Li Hao was low-key enough, concealing his power for a sudden eruption at the very end, then it was very possible that he would be the one having the last laugh. Lu Dong and the others were very envious. They had also asked for Li Hao's guidance on saber chi, but no matter how much effort they exerted, they still could not manage to form chi. When we were in Guo Rock Town, we thought we were the strongest. But it was only when we came here that we realized that the real gathering spot for geniuses was this Da Yuan City. Parties like the Jin clan and the Lu clan can so easily produce 10+ seeded elites. Chen Pengju shook his head, his face filled with disappointment. He and Zhou Chang managed to break through to the element gathering tier with the help of the green spiritual fruit. However, there were so many powerful warriors gathered for the Da Yuan tournament this time. If one did not at the very least possess the prowess of the 4th layer of element gathering tier, then unless he was like Li Hao who had managed to form saber chi, there was absolutely no chance of obtaining a place in the top 50. Big brother Ling, what about you? Which group did you draw? The 5 of them looked at Ling Han in askance. They were all well aware that Ling Han was very powerful, so as long as he drew a good lot, then the chances of him being able to advance into the top 50 were extremely high. Ling Han smiled, and said, I'm the seeded participant of the 40th group. Pooh. Lu Dong and the others all choked, and they looked at Ling Han as if they were looking at some kind of monster. A few months ago, this guy had still been the same as them, also in the body refining tier. Yet now, he actually managed to become a seeded elite. How could they not be shocked by such a thing? They were also filled with disbelief. You're actually in the 4th layer of element gathering tier already. Li Hao punched a fist on Ling Han's chest jokingly. But once he recalled that Ling Han had given him 2 extra transcending origin pills, and had also declared truthfully that he had more in his possession, then it was nothing strange for him to be able to advance to the 4th layer of element gathering tier in that span of time. If he's a seeded participant, then he'd be able to avoid encountering the other elites. Plus, Big Brother Ling still has sword chi, so he'd definitely be able to win. Lu Dong said, his face filled with envy. Zhu Zuyi and the others nodded in agreement. If you managed to enter the top 50, you'd be able to obtain a ticket into Huyang Academy, which was the dream of every martial artist in Rain Country. If they knew what had happened the night before, they'd probably be shocked to the point that their eyes would practically pop out. He actually managed to have 3 black-grade alchemists follow behind him. Ha 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 ha, you want to win. That's impossible, an arrogant voice exclaimed, and a young man appeared in front of them. He was Fung Luo. Previously, after they had managed to kill the red-scaled dragon snake, he had attempted to steal the fruits of their labor. Yet, in the end, due to the final counterattack, all his underlings were killed, while he himself received a harsh thrashing at Ling Han's hands, but fortunately managed to survive. They had never thought that he would reappear so quickly with his lofty, arrogant attitude in front of them. There was absolutely no improvement to his cultivation, and he was still in the 9th layer of body refining tier. For the majority of martial artists, that one step into the element gathering tier was an extremely hard one to take. It was not strange at all to spend more than 10 years to take that single step, which was also why Hang Zan had been so overbearing and forceful, using any means possible to steal the green spiritual fruit. Big Brother Ling is a seeded elite and he's very powerful. Why wouldn't he win? Zhu Ziyi asked Fung Luo. Because I am also in the 40th group. Fung Luo declared confidently. Ha 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 ha. Lu Dong and the others broke out into laughter. One side was in the element gathering tier, while the other was still in the 9th layer of body refining tier. The gap between their respective prowess could really be compared to the gap between heaven and earth. No matter how it was, Fung Luo really did not have a sliver of a chance at winning. Laugh. Go on and laugh. You'll be crying in the afternoon. Fung Luo spoke coldly. Lu Dong and the others were all curious. What kind of trump card was hidden up his sleeve that allowed him to have such overwhelming confidence? Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Fung Luo laughed loudly, walking away with his head held high. Don't worry about him, he's just a nasty character, Ling Han said, smiling. The other 5 nodded in agreement. The drawing of lots was completed before noon, and they would be having the tournament stage battles in the afternoon to select the 50 strongest martial artists. After that, there would be another round of battles the next day to decide the 10 strongest as well as the first place. After lunch, everyone soon arrived at the wrestling ring in the city. There would usually be various martial arts activities held here. During the new year, when a ceremony to offer sacrifices to the gods took place, there were also martial artist versus demonic beast battles held in this location. As a result, the yellow sand of the wrestling ring had been soaked with blood since long ago. Today, because of the Da Yuan tournament, all other activities and events were of course suspended. There were already 10 tournament stages put up in the gigantic sandy zone in the center. Later, there would be simultaneously 10 groups battling it out on the stages, and it would all be finished after only 5 rounds. Ling Han was the seed participant of the 40th group, so he had to wait until the 4th round to go up onto the stage. Lu Dong and Zhu Ziyi were in the first round. One of them was on the first tournament stage, while the other was on the 7th. There were about 70 people in one group, and the difference in numbers between different groups were in the single digits, because it was possible that there would be some who would forfeit at the last second. There was absolutely no suspense about the conclusion of the first round. All the victors were the seeded elites. They were all like the 4th prince, in the 9th layer of element gathering tier, so even if the others all joined forces to gang up on a seeded elite, they were still no match for him. Moreover, in the case of the 4th prince, who would actually dare to offend this man who may become the next Da Yuan king? They obviously did not dare to join forces against him. Additionally, the elites who took part in the first round were also the strongest of the 50. They were all in the top 10 of the previous Da Yuan tournament, like the 4th prince, Jin Wuji and Li Dongyue. Occasionally, in the 2nd and the 3rd round, there would be an unknown martial artist who managed to win, but victory did not fall to either Chen Pengju and Zhou Chang. The 2 of them were mercilessly eliminated from the tournament. Thankfully, they'd be able to get another chance 3 years later. By that time, it was highly likely that they would have managed to reach the middle stage of element gathering tier and thus become seeded elites, and so would have a bigger chance of advancing to the next round. This also confirmed the value of the green spiritual fruit. Otherwise, they may have only just reached element gathering tier 3 years later, so there'd be no second chance for them. Hannah, go on. Ling Dongxing lightly patted Ling Han's shoulder, smiling brightly. The 4th round was about to begin. Half a year ago, he would have never been able to imagine that it was possible his own son to obtain the place of a seeded elite. Lu Yutong nodded to Ling Han. She did not have the slightest bit of doubt that it was possible for Ling Han to lose. As a seeded elite, Ling Han was the first person to step onto the stage, while the other participants in his group would follow after. There were about 70 of them, and Fung Luo was one of them. Begin, a warrior in Gushing Spring Tier announced. He had been assigned as a referee by the royal house of the Da Yuan king. Ha 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 ha, clear the area. Fung Luo declared proudly. Instantly, there were at least 30 people who drew their weapons simultaneously and gathered with Fung Luo protected in the center. Then, they began to push on towards the others. The audience below the stage were all dumbfounded. Was this even okay? It was really too shameless. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 67. Just a bunch of sheep. This is too despicable. Downstage, Zhu Zuyi and the others had all started shouting in anger. No wonder Fung Luo had been so sure of himself. He had apparently bribed some of the martial artists in the same group to work for him. More than 30 of them were working together, and since this was the 40th group, the seeded elite would not be too strong, thus they'd be more than enough to sweep away all other contenders. Then, the others would all leave the stage of their own free will, so the remaining Fung Luo would naturally be able to obtain a place in the top 50. And he of course would not unreasonably demand to enter the top 10, and definitely not the first place. After all top 50 participants were guaranteed to be enrolled into Huyang Academy. He's too shameless. Completely unfair. All the others downstage had started calling out as well. This was an act of openly breaking the tournament regulations. Yet the referee only gave a cold humph, and shouted, "Shut up." Since the tournament regulations did not specify that it was not allowed for individual martial artists to join forces, then Fung Luo's actions were of course allowed. It could at most be argued that he had managed to take advantage of a loophole in the rules. What power and influence a warrior in Gushing Spring Tier possessed? All the people downstage were immediately silenced. No wonder that guy had been so confident. He had already bribed some of the others in his group, Zhu Zuyi said, extremely angry. To be ganged up on by so many people, plus at least more than 10 of them have already reached Element Gathering Tier. It would be difficult for Ling Han to fight against the onslaught of so many. He's going to be in big trouble. Lu Dong frowned. Not necessarily. Li Hao shook his head, and said, Big Brother Ling should have already reached the 4th layer of Element Gathering Tier. Furthermore, he has even formed 4 flashes of sword chi, so there is still a chance for him to win. He definitely has to win. That guy, Fung Luo, is really too despicable. The 5 of them all began to cheer Ling Han on. Compared to them, Lu Yutong and Lu Dongxing were extremely calm. A bunch of sheep working together would still only be a bunch of sheep. How could they possibly be able to match a mighty lion? Ha ha ha. Leave this guy for last. Chase all the others off the stage. Fung Luo crowed, and commanded the group of more than 30 martial artists to begin wiping out the others. Their combined might was extremely powerful, and due to their cooperation, they had managed to get all the other outsiders, aside from Ling Han, off the stage, and that was with the mere price of 7 of their numbers being pulled down alongside their victims. Now, this was a battle of 29 against 1, and out of the 29, 14 were in Element Gathering Tier. Oh no, though this brat is a seeded elite, since he's been arranged to be in the 40th group, that means that he's most likely only in the 4th layer of Element Gathering Tier. Yeah, many ants can kill even an elephant, and the other party even has 10+ warriors in Element Gathering Tier working for him. I really can't bear to look at that guy, Fung Luo's, expression at having his villainous scheme succeeding. Hush, lower your voices. Although the Fung clan isn't a major clan, Fung Luo's elder brother is a well-known genius in our Da Yuan city. In the last round of Da Yuan tournament, he managed to defeat the 4th prince to get the 1st place. I heard he's already stepped into Gushing Spring Tier. What? Gushing Spring Tier, is that true? Of course it's true. Hiss. No wonder that guy, Fung Luo, dares to be so arrogant. Listening to the discussions of those downstage, Fung Luo felt extremely proud of himself. He did break the rules, but so what? What? You guys can't accept this. He challenged the people downstage, bite me if you can. You can do something like this too if you have a good elder brother like me. Most of the audience offstage started gnashing their teeth in hatred. They really felt that this guy was despicable down to the bones, making them all feel the urge to rush onto the stage to give him a good thrashing. Ling Han, previously, you made use of the advantage in numbers against me, but this time, I have so many people on my side. Even if every one of them only hit you once, they'd be able to give you a terrible thrashing. If you know what's good for you, then kneel down immediately and beg me for mercy. I may even consider hitting you a few times less. Fung Luo said, pointing at Ling Han. Had it been bullying him because of them having an advantage in numbers previously? Indeed, at the time, all his lackeys had died, while Ling Han's side had 7 people, so that was actually them bullying him because of their advantage in numbers. This guy was indeed shameless to a whole new level. Ling Han shook his head, and said, looks like if I don't hurry up and throw you off the stage and allow a clown like you to continue your performance, the fury of the masses would probably be incited. Ha 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 ha. Laughter broke out instantly downstage. What a hateful guy, you still dare to be so stubborn. I won't spare you. Fung Luo was driven practically mad from fury. He extended a finger and pointed at Ling Han and said, beat him, give him a good beating. Understood. The group of more than 20 people all rushed towards Ling Han. All of them were brandishing their respective weapons, presenting a fierce image. The tournament stage battles allowed the use of weapons. Otherwise, the martial artists would not be able to display their strongest abilities. However, this also increased the danger of the battles. So if you were afraid of dying, then it would be best if you quickly jumped off the stage on your own. If you stayed on the stage, then you should have a certain level of mental preparation. Ling Han did not bother to use his sword. He charged over with only his fists. Using dashing panther fists would be more than enough to handle these people. Peng, 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 peng. He charged forward and every single person who stood in his way was flung off stage with a single punch from him. One has to understand that although his cultivation level was only the 4th layer of element gathering tier, with the eruption of the 5 elements origin nuclei, his prowess could be compared with that of a normal person in the 8th layer of element gathering tier. Additionally, the dashing panther fists was a yellow-grade high-level martial arts technique, so wouldn't it be more than enough for him to single-handedly deal with these people? By the time Ling Han reached Fung Luo, all the others had been thrown off stage by him. There was absolute silence. Wasn't this guy too powerful? Since he was the seed of the 40th group, then shouldn't it be obvious that he was only in the 5th layer of element gathering tier at most? But judging from his ferocious attacks, that was definitely power that was at least of the late stage of element gathering tier. Could it be that he had deliberately hidden his actual cultivation level, pretending to be a pig to devour the tiger? However, there were naturally the older generations of the various great clans present on this occasion, so there was no lack of people with cultivation levels above the 5th layer of element gathering tier. Naturally, they managed to easily sense Ling Han's aura, and it definitely showed that he was only in the 4th layer of element gathering tier. This caused them to be confused as well. They all started murmuring amongst themselves, exchanging their thoughts about how this could be possible. No. Impossible, Fung Luo said, shivering. His expression was one of complete disbelief. The script wasn't supposed to be like this. He should have successfully and easily entered into Huyang Academy. Then, with the care and assistance of his brother, easily break through to element gathering tier. If he was lucky, he'd be able to consume some kind of spiritual fruit, and may even be able to break through to gushing spring tier. But all of his plans were rendered useless if he couldn't manage to enter into Huyang Academy. Arrogant. Just continue being arrogant. Ha 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 ha. Just continue staying on stage, if you dare. The people downstage all started taunting Fung Luo. They had already long been displeased by this guy, but just now, because he had a lot of people on his side, they didn't dare to make too much of a fuss. But what about now? Who would have imagined that Ling Han would actually be so powerful? You immediately admit defeat, then get off the stage. Otherwise, I will tell my brother to take care of you. With the taunting resounding in his ears, Fung Luo finally reacted. He actually pointed at Ling Han and commanded him to give up. Ling Han shook his head. This guy had really been spoiled. He was a complete idiot. Pa! He leapt and aimed a kick at Fung Luo's lower abdomen. Su! The guy flew off stage. He held onto his lower abdomen, gasping in pain. It even looked like he was about to tear up from the pain. 40th group. Ling Han wins. The referee announced. No, this place is mine. It's mine. When Fung Luo heard this, he actually jumped up and said to the referee, change your judgment immediately, or else I'll have my brother beat you to death. Everyone else instantly broke out into incredulous laughter. Someone merely in body refining tier actually dared to threaten a warrior of gushing spring tier. It was absolutely hilarious. Get lost. The referee gave a cold humph. He stretched out a hand and gathered his origin power to form a gigantic hand, which took hold of Fung Luo and threw him out. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 68. The Second Battle. Origin power being able to take on a form, this was the symbol of a warrior of gushing spring tier. Surrounded by taunts and mocking laughter, Fung Luo fled with his tail between his legs if it was not due to the fact that his elder brother, Fung Yuan, was indeed an incomparable genius, then that warrior of gushing spring tier absolutely had the right to kill him on the spot. The most important thing in martial arts was the hierarchy of martial artists, and Fung Luo's previous actions could practically be considered a grave breach of these unspoken rules, so even if he had killed him, the Fung clan would dare not make a fuss about it. Brother Ling, congratulations. Congratulations, Brother Ling, for having such an excellent son. Brother Ling, this time you'll have to host a dinner banquet in celebration. After looking up at the stage, many of the major characters of the various clans of Grey Cloud Town began offering their congratulations to Ling Dongxing. Ling Dongxing naturally laughed loudly at this, absolutely delighted. Before, he had also imagined such a scene happening, but he knew this was not a realistic dream. He never thought that there would be a day that this dream would become reality. Ha 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 ha. This stupid brat is just lucky enough to obtain a place of enrollment into Huyang Academy. There shouldn't be any chance of him advancing further than this. He shook his head, looking very modest. Actually, anyone could see that he was smiling so wide that the corners of his lips seemed like they were about to split apart from the effort. It was obvious that he was close to being beside himself with joy. True, whoever it was that had a son that was qualified enough to enter into Huyang Academy, he would also smile so proudly. Brother Ling, you don't have to be so modest. For those of us who came from Grey Cloud Town, it is already very impressive to be able to enter the top 50. Moreover, your son is only 17 years old this year. So he'd still be able to enter the Da Yuan tournament that will be held 3 years later and 6 years later. Who knows, maybe in the next tournament, he'd qualify for the top 10, and in the one after, he'd place first, someone said with a laugh. Although Ling Han had fought a beautiful battle this time, but still, his opponents this time were really too weak. None of them thought that he, with his cultivation of only the 4th layer of element gathering tier, would be able to enter the top 10, let alone defeat those in the 9th layer of element gathering tier, like the 4th prince. Ling Dongxing laughed mischievously. He of course could not say that his son was full of grand ambitions, and that he was aiming directly to get the first place this time. Honestly, he too did not dare believe it. After all, the gap between cultivation levels was too great. Ling Han walked down the stage, and everyone stepped forward to offer their congratulations. After all, anyone who managed to enter into Huyang Academy had excellent prospects in his future. Who knows, they may be able to become an overnight celebrity and become a person that would hold immense status and power in this Rain country. As a result, no one would mind speaking a few words of praise at this moment. In any case, they wouldn't lose anything from it, right? And if Ling Han managed to end up with great achievements in the future, they'd be able to climb to a higher status using their friendly relations with him. Ling Dongxing, as the clan head of the Ling clan, was no stranger to this kind of social niceties. He took care of everything, making everyone feel that they have been paid adequate attention. Father and son, as well as Lu Yutong, returned to Heaven's Medicine Pavilion. After one night of rest, the battles to decide the top 10 from the 50 who advanced into the second round would take place. In truth, the top 10 would all receive rewards. Of course, the further ahead your placement, the better your prize. On the other side, Li Hao had also managed to advance into the top 50, and had demonstrated extraordinary talent with his saber chi, causing many people to be very optimistic about his future prospects, as there were no more than 10 in this generation of young people of Dayuan City that have managed to form chi. However, some of the senior members of the Li clan had arrived with Li Hao, so naturally, they had to celebrate with their own people first the night before. Thus, they did not invite Ling Han, and neither did they invite Lu Dong and the others. But once they returned to Guo Rock Town, the Li clan would definitely hold a grand celebratory banquet. The next day, Ling Han and Lu Yutong once again arrived at the wrestling ring of the city. Meanwhile, Zhu Hixin and Zhang Weishan were in the process of concocting the reverse pill, and have long since entered the oblivious mode, so they did not come to watch Ling Han compete. 1. Big Brother Ling. Li Hao walked over and stood by his side. He then directed a respectful gaze at the fourth prince, Li Dongyue, and the others. They had all been people that he had once idolized and looked up to. He'd never thought that he would be able to compete with them now, causing him to feel unreasonably exhilarated. Do not look down on yourself. You have already formed saber chi, so your future achievements will definitely exceed them. Ling Han said, giving him a comforting pat on the shoulder. Li Hao nodded seriously. In truth, the real difference between himself and the fourth prince and the others was his lacking cultivation level. But since he's already managed to form saber chi, he too would be able to become a ruler amongst those of the same cultivation level in future. Brother Ling. When they saw Ling Han approach, the fourth prince and the others clasped their hands politely and spoke up in greeting. Li Hao could not help gaping at this. This Ling Han was really too popular, wasn't he? As if he was the moon which the stars could only revolve around. Even the fourth prince was not as popular as he was. That was natural. Currently, there stood 3 dignified black-grade alchemists behind him, so from a certain angle, he was even more influential than the Dayuan king. The battles to decide the top 10 will begin now. The chief butler appeared. His eyes were squinted, making him look like a doddering old man. However, his voice was extremely loud and clear, spreading to every nook and cranny of the wrestling ring. The rules are very simple. There are 10 tournament stages here. Choose any which one and walk onto the stage. If there's no one there, then you will be the stage master. If there's already someone, then you will challenge the stage master. Everyone will only have a single chance to challenge the stage master. By sundown, the 10 people who are remaining on the tournament stage will be the top 10. This was indeed very simple. They simply had to battle it out. When the chief butler had finished speaking, the majority of the participants all looked at the fourth prince, Li Dongyue, and the others. These people possessed overwhelming power, so if any of the others wanted to obtain a place in the top 10, then they'd definitely want to avoid encountering these powerful warriors. The fourth prince laughed loudly, and exuded the air of a ruler. He gave a great leap and landed on the first tournament stage, where he stood with his arms crossed behind his waist, waiting to be challenged. I'll present myself first. Li Dongyue leapt onto the second tournament stage. Jin Wuji, Bailey Tengyun, Xia Zhong and the others also respectively claimed a tournament stage, and in an instant, 7 tournament stages were owned. These people all had absolute confidence and were not the slightest bit worried that they'd be tired out by fighting one battle after another. Ling Han took one step forward, also preparing to step onto one of the remaining stages. Big Brother Ling, let's just wait until the afternoon. We'll have a bigger chance that way, Li Hao hurriedly advised. Ha ha. It's fine. There are not many here who can match me. Ling Han gave a nonchalant wave of his hand. He gave a great leap and landed on the 8th tournament stage. Soon after, the 9th and 10th tournament stages were also occupied, and with that, the 10 stage masters have appeared. Now, it was time to see who would go up to challenge them. I'll go. Someone jumped up onto the 10th tournament stage and the first battle began. Right after, another person leapt up onto the 9th tournament stage. But what made the audience feel very curious about was that no one actually went to challenge Ling Han. There was no lack of elites in the 9th layer of element gathering tier here, so naturally they should be able to sense that Ling Han was only in the 4th layer of element gathering tier. So theoretically, this kind of cultivation level was the lowest of all 10 stage masters, but why didn't anyone go up to challenge him? They didn't understand. The majority of those who advanced into the top 50 had attended the 4th Prince's banquet just a few days ago, so of course they knew that Ling Han actually had the support of 3 black-grade alchemists. Who would dare challenge him? Do you not intend to give face to the 3 alchemists behind Ling Han? In any case, aside from the 4th Prince, Li Dongyue, and other such powerful warriors, there were still 2 or 3 slightly weaker competitors. So there was no need for them to stir up the hornet's nest that was Ling Han. But of course, the unexpected could still happen. I will challenge you. A young man jumped up onto Ling Han's tournament stage. He was a dark horse that had suddenly appeared in the Da Yuan tournament this time, so he had not received an invitation to the 4th Prince's banquet a few days ago. As a result, he naturally had no idea of Ling Han's background. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 69. Top 10. My name is Du Zhengying. Remember my name, because soon, this name will be known all around the world. The young man exclaimed proudly. This man looked to be in his early 20s, and his cultivation level was the 6th layer of element gathering tier. Who knew where he got such overwhelming self-confidence from? But only he himself knew that he had only been in the 9th layer of body refining tier 2 years ago, and could not manage to break through to element gathering tier. Yet he obtained a fateful encounter, which caused his cultivation level to spike up. After only 2 years, he was already in the 6th layer of element gathering tier. After such instantaneous success, he naturally became condescending towards everything, and thought that he'd be able to reach the 9th layer of element gathering tier next year and break through to gushing spring tier in the year after, sweeping away all the other geniuses and elites of the world. Ling Han smiled calmly, and said, being too idle would be a bit boring anyways, so I'll play with you for a while. How dare you? Du Zhengying leapt forward suddenly, the long saber at his waist drawn. The light of the saber flickered, exuding a coldness like frost. He gave a loud shout and brandished his saber in a slash, which formed a terrifying cold flash that flew towards Ling Han's waist. The advantage of a sword was its lightness, while the saber had its ferocity. This saber slash was fierce and merciless, so it did have a certain level of standard. Ling Han drew his sword, and with a ding, the blade of the sword screamed as it passed over the saber's blade all the way to the hilt of the saber, easily dispersing the power of this slash as it kicked up a rain of sparks. The blade of Du Zhengying's saber stopped at a spot 3 inches below Ling Han's rib, but its energy was completely exhausted and it was no longer a threat. You do have some ability, Du Zhengying snorted coldly, but in front of me, all that is pointless effort. I'm destined to be a genius that will become world famous. Everyone else is only fated to become stepping stones on my path to advance, to be mercilessly swept away by me. He resumed his offensive. Shuo, shuo, shuo. The saber flashed, striking with considerable power. Those who were standing downstage were completely struck speechless. They have seen many proud people, but Du Zhengying was not just proud anymore. He was already arrogant to the point that he didn't know his own measure. Ling Han casually parried his attacks. In any case, the tournament stage battles would only end by sundown, so there was no difference whether he defeated Du Zhengying sooner or later. Du Zhengying shouted and yelled, using all his ultimate techniques. From the look of it, he was at an absolute advantage. He naturally thought that this was to be expected. His opponent was only in the 4th layer of element gathering tier, a whole 2 layers below him, so how could Ling Han be a match for him? To be able to disregard the gap between cultivation levels and challenge one at a higher cultivation level was of course something that only he could do. Ha 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 ha, not bad, not bad. I have to admit that you really are not bad. But everything will cease at this point, I'm about to get serious. Du Zhengying laughed loudly, causing everyone else to think that he was even more of an idiot than before. His expression grew serious, and he once again brandished his blade. Sure. There actually appeared a flash of saber chi. Yi. N. Gasps exploded downstage all of a sudden. Saber chi. It can't be. That's the sign of a ruler. I didn't realize that this egomaniac was actually quite capable. This time, Ling Han should not be able to parry his attacks anymore. I heard that there are no more than 10 within this generation that have managed to grasp chi. Du Zhengying was very proud of himself. If it was not because he had managed to form saber chi, how would he dare keep such a high profile? He laughed loudly, and said, "To be able to make me use saber chi, you should feel very honored." Ling Han shook his head and said in disappointment, "You only have 1 flash of saber chi." Hey, what kind of expression is that? Isn't 1 flash of saber chi already very awesome? Du Zhengyi was extremely displeased. After seeing him forming saber chi, this brat was still not scared witless. "It's enough to defeat you 100 times. He yelled loudly. He started brandishing his saber in a dance, and his saber chi moved unhindered. The power behind it was extremely terrifying. Ling Han laughed, and casually waved his own sword in a slash, similarly producing a flash of sword chi. Pooh! Everyone downstage choked in shock. Those who managed to form chi would have the potential to be a ruler in martial arts. But normally, 4 flashes of chi would be regarded as a minor accomplishment, 7 flashes as a major accomplishment, while 10 flashes would be completion. And only those who managed to reach the level of minor accomplishment had the right to be named as rulers. But even if only 1 flash of chi was formed, that was already a very big deal, as it was extremely rare. Thus, now that there appeared 2 people who have both managed to form chi, and were even battling on the same stage, it naturally caused everyone to gasp in surprise. This was something that they had expected would only happen at tomorrow's battle, at the very least. What? You actually also have sword chi? Du Zhengying's eyes were wide with astonishment. He looked extremely shocked. Is this very odd? Ling Han said with a laugh. Heng, so what if you possess sword chi? You'll definitely still be no match for me. Du Zhengying raised his saber up high, standing in an attacking stance. The fateful encounter that he had obtained included a book of saber arts and a bottle of alchemical pills. The alchemical pills allowed him to break through to element gathering tier and also caused his cultivation to soar. The book of saber arts was also extraordinary. It contained 2 different stages. The first stage was a yellow-grade high-level martial arts technique, whereas the second stage was upgraded to black-grade low-level. He was only in element gathering tier, so naturally only managed to learn the first stage. Yet it already allowed him to form saber chi, which was proof enough of the extraordinary power of this saber arts technique. Cleaving mountain saber arts. He roared loudly. He brandished his saber in a slash, and the saber chi he produced looked like a dragon, extremely dazzling and possessing a terrifying level of power. Ling Han's sword rose in a slant, using the shocking electricity sword arts, and the sword chi he possessed flew forwards. Peng! Sword chi and saber chi crashed into one another and caused a sudden explosion. A dazzling light appeared, and it was visible that the saber chi was actually completely shattered by Ling Han's attack. His sword chi, like a rainbow, continued forward to cut into Du Zhengying's chest. Instantly, blood splattered. Ah! Du Zhengying gave a pained shout, and was flung directly off stage by the power of the sword chi. See. Everyone was overwhelmed with shock. Both martial artists had formed chi, yet why was there such a big gap between their respective power? There were only a few who had also managed to form chi, it was only them that knew that there were stronger and weaker chi. It was definitely not something that guaranteed you success if you just managed to form it. However, no matter how weak it was still chi, so it was impossible that it couldn't even withstand a single attack. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so difficult to form chi in the first place. That could only mean one thing: Ling Han's sword chi possessed overwhelming power. Even the fourth prince, Li Dongyue, and the other stage masters who occupied the earlier stages revealed expressions of shock. This kind of attack power caused even them to be slightly surprised. Yet they thought that their cultivation level was so much higher than Ling Han, so they absolutely could still suppress him with their much stronger prowess. Such an easy victory also caused Ling Han's image to become stronger and taller, letting everyone know that he was not as simple as simply depending on 3 alchemists as support for himself. The challenges continued. Most of the people had focused their attention on the 9th and 10th tournament stages. The stage masters of these 2 stages were the weakest and had already expended much energy during the continuous battles. This was the best path to obtain a place in the top 10 for everyone else. When the sun set, the top 10 martial artists were decided. There was not much surprise this time round, as the top 10 were mostly within expectations. Though Li Hao tried his best in his battles, his lacking cultivation level was a very solid disadvantage. The best he could do was to fight evenly with someone in the 4th layer of element gathering tier, but against a stronger person, he could only accept defeat. Ling Dongxing was again surrounded by the masses. Most of them had not thought that Ling Han could actually manage to advance into the top 10. This was an extremely huge honor. In future, he may even have a chance of becoming a powerful warrior of gushing spring tier. This naturally caused Ling Dongxing to beam with joy. When he saw that his son managed to attain such an accomplishment, he was the most delighted out of all of them. If he advanced one step further the next day, then he'd be able to get the Dark Moon Grass. Ling Han was filled with anticipation. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 70, Son of Heaven Fist Technique. The night passed silently. On the next day, the 3rd round of the Da Yuan tournament continued. This was the finals, and today, the first place winner would be decided. Can Hannah really get the first place? Ling Dongxing was both expectant and anxious. Before the tournament began, he believed that his son would be able to at least advance into the top 50, but dared not dream that he would also make into the top 10. After all, Ling Han's cultivation level was honestly still too low. But Ling Han's extraordinary success the previous day had been a very joyous surprise to Ling Dongxing, making a sliver of expectation for that illusory first place rise in him. However, on the path to that first place, there stood powerful warriors like the 4th prince, Li Dongyue, and Jin Wuji. Even if he himself was the one competing, he couldn't be sure that he would win. What more his son. Initially, it was fine because he didn't really bear any real expectations. But now that a spark of hope had flickered to life within him, he had become worried about winning and losing. Lu Yutong smiled, and said, "You don't have to worry, uncle. Since Ling Han said he can get the first place, then he'll definitely get the first place." Ling Dongxing was astounded. This girl actually had more confidence in his son than even him. Looks like her affections for Ling Han have become deeply rooted. When he thought about this, he no longer bothered to worry too much about the first place. If his son could obtain such an excellent partner, then he really would die happy. The regulations for today's tournament round are as follows. The chief butler continued to be the host of the tournament. You shall go up onto the 10 tournament stages according to yesterday's order. This would be your temporary placement. Anyone who is ranked lower can challenge the person one rank higher. If you win, you will replace him. But if you lose, you can only stay on your own stage and defend, and you will no longer be able to issue any challenges. When everyone has lost the right to challenge others, or when the sun sets, your final rankings will be confirmed. After every battle, both sides will have half an hour to rest. In that time, you may only challenge, but cannot be challenged. The moment the chief butler finished talking, Li Dongyue took a great leap and arrived on the first tournament stage. He said, "Fourth Prince, I would like to challenge you." "Ha ha, I too want to see if your little Xuanhuan hands has advanced to the 7th level," Qi Yongyi laughed heartily. He leapt up and also arrived on the tournament stage. "It will definitely not disappoint you." Li Dongyue gave a long hiss, raised his hands and charged towards Qi Yongyi in attack. The two of them were both in the 9th layer of element gathering tier. 3 years ago, they were close rivals, but the 4th prince was slightly better. These 3 years, Li Dongyue had buried himself in cultivation, and there was an extremely obvious improvement in his abilities. "Brother Li, your improvement is indeed very large, but if I have to be honest, it was a great miscalculation on your part to stay in Dayuan City in a sulk." Qi Yongyi displayed a fist technique. Every fist was imposingly majestic, like the arrival of a noble ruler. It not only possessed great force but also the ability to shake the heart, causing a powerful shudder to rise up from the depths of their hearts. The Imperial City is the real sacred land of martial arts. There, you will encounter even stronger opponents, and every one of them is so strong that it will give you the shivers. Under this kind of pressure, the improvement in my abilities is far from what you can imagine. Take this, my son of heaven fist technique. Hong, hong, hong. His movements were very pronounced and every fist possessed overbearing power. A layer of qi was wrapped around his fists, increasing the might behind each blow. It was fist qi. Li Dongyue was very shocked. He could only retreat in the face of Qi Yongyi's fists. His expression revealed deep regret. 3 years ago, he had only been slightly weaker than Qi Yongyi. After a tough battle of at least 500 moves, he had been defeated due to being at a very slight disadvantage. Yet now, the battle had only just begun, and he was already suppressed by his opponent. He didn't even have the opportunity to fight back against the 4th prince's terrifying fist technique. Peng! He received a heavy punch and his figure retreated continuously. A sliver of blood could be seen at the corners of his lips. "I am not a match for you," he said bitterly. They were both in the 9th layer of element gathering tier, yet he was not just a slight bit weaker than his opponent. His opponent was on a wholly different level than himself. "This is the Son of Heaven fist technique taught to me by His Imperial Majesty. There is no shame in losing to this fist technique." Qi Yongyi smiled, giving his opponent a way out. His Imperial Majesty was a powerful warrior of spiritual pedestal tier. How could any martial arts technique that he taught not be extremely powerful? There are 4 different levels for this fist technique. The power of the first level reaches a yellow grade high level technique, the second level is a black grade low level, the third level is a black grade medium level, and the 4th level is a black grade high level martial arts technique. Qi Yongyi said with a smile, His Imperial Majesty has a fondness for talent, and there is a considerable number of geniuses in the Imperial City who have been taught the Son of Heaven fist technique. On the spectators' seats, everyone had exclaimed in surprise. The 4th prince was really too powerful. In the previous Dayuan tournament, Li Dongyue could still manage a tie with the 4th prince, but this time, he couldn't even hold on for 10 moves. They all looked at the 4th prince with envy. The 4th level of the Son of Heaven fist technique was equivalent to a black grade high-level martial arts technique. If they actually managed to learn up to that level, unfortunately, although His Imperial Majesty was fond of talent, how could he possibly pass on a black grade high-level martial arts technique so easily? At most, he should have only passed on the 1st and 2nd level. But a black grade low-level martial arts technique was awesome enough. One has to know that even among the great clans of Dayuan City there were not many clans who had in their possession a black grade martial arts technique. How about it, Brother Li, are you interested to come with me to the Huyang Academy this time? Qi Yongyi laughed. Li Dongyue could not stop a slightly moved expression from showing on his face. The gap in power between himself and the 4th prince allowed him to finally gain his resolve. Dayuan City was too small. He had to go out of this city to be able to obtain a greater improvement. He returned to the 2nd tournament stage, and the battles continued. However, because he had just battled, no one could challenge him yet. Jin Wuji, I would like to challenge you. From the fourth tournament stage, Bailey Tengyun gave a long hiss and leapt up onto the third tournament stage. Jin Wuji smiled serenely and crossed his arms behind his back, looking very casual. He stretched his arms a bit then said, "Then I'll give you a bit of guidance." He was also a disciple of Huyang Academy. After 3 years of hard work at cultivation, the improvement to his abilities was obvious. The only person that he took seriously among the other competitors was the fourth prince. The two of them began their battle. Bailey Tengyun was indeed extraordinary to be able to break through to the 8th layer of element gathering tier at the mere age of 17 years old. His prowess was only slightly weaker than Jin Wuji's and every move he made was powerful, causing the expressions of quite a few of the seniors in the 9th layer of element gathering tier to waver as they pondered that, if it was them battling against him, there was a possibility that they would be completely defeated. Yet Jin Wuji moved very skillfully, and with a single hand, he easily dispersed the power behind Bailey Tengyun's every attack, showing that he possessed a power greater than his opponents. He really proves himself to have returned from Huyang Academy. He's really too powerful. They're all in the 9th layer of element gathering tier, but most of them may not be a match for 1/10 of Jin Wuji. For this tournament, we only need to look at him and the fourth prince. One of the two of them would definitely get the first place. True. There's definitely no doubt about it. Hearing the discussions of the people around him, Bailey Tengyun gave a HN and drew a short staff from behind him. He gave it a light shake, and from both ends, there actually appeared another section. It had transformed into a staff of about 2 meters in length. It was made from some unknown kind of material. The whole staff was as black as ink. I heard that the Bailey sect has an ultimate treasure. Rumor has it that it was the weapon of an ultimate warrior and was refined by this warrior over many days and nights. It possesses a terrifying destructive ability. Could this be it? Jin Wuji asked. Yes. This is the staff of destruction. Bailey Tengyun nodded and gave the staff a light wave. Wing. The black staff trembled slightly and a powerful shock wave spread out from it. Then let me experience attacks from this staff of destruction. Jin Wuji revealed a solemn expression. This solemnity was not because of Bailey Tengyun, but because of the staff of destruction. End of the chapter. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao will be read in 5 chapters for every Monday, Wednesday, Friday and Sunday. Please leave this sound novel and press subscribe, follow, and the bell so you don't miss any new clips as well. See you.